Nice, looking good. That's it.
Oh, sort of, man. What's going on, Sean?
Not much, man. Just hanging.
Yeah, man. Set looks good. Yeah, we're actually remodeling the studio right now. We moved all operations out to the beach house when COVID hit,
Ooh,
so we had to break down the whole studio inland. Moved out here just to the beach house, so we're not quite finished with this room at all. So I just have like my junk in the corner, like my guns and my my fishing poles and my
that's not bad
speakers
though.
for
Being at
comedy.
being at the beach, right?
Yeah, not too bad, man. It's literally the beach is my backyard, man. But
That's amazing.
let me tell you, when COVID happened, no one seemed to give a shit at the beach. I think they all thought, you come here and it's just COVID doesn't exist here, man. Because I watched this beach pack up day in and day out. And I'm like, this isn't even real, I think. It's ridiculous.
What beach is it? I know you're in Florida.
New Smyrna.
Okay.
Yeah, New
I heard,
Smyrna
like,
Beach.
was there a lot of cases after that or something?
No, we've been
Yeah.
knock on wood. We've been good out here, man. We've been
Yeah.
safe, but I'm telling you, nobody. I went out finally for the first time. I think Friday. I went to a couple bars, had a few beers, and no one's wearing a mask. No one gives a shit.
Really?
It is ridiculous. I'm still nervous having a beer in a place, right? Where I'm like, oh, should I be here? I'm gonna die. You know?
They say Florida doesn't like give a fuck about anything, so they're fitting
No,
that stereotype.
yeah, I think so. I give a shit, man. I'm telling you, when it started March, I was like a COVID insane person, right?
Yeah.
I was like take off all your clothes. My girl would come home and I'm like, take off all your clothes at the door, put them in the washing machine. I'm Lysoling her down when she comes in, right? Like I was nuts. And after a while, I started to be like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, dude. I mean, it's a weird thing, but I've just been riding the flow of it. I haven't been sick in 17 years.
I heard.
So,
I
like,
heard on your podcast today.
so that
I did. You believe you haven't been sick, and then that doesn't happen. I like how you're taking the secret all the way to the wall, man. You're taking it all the way to 150 years old, right?
150 years old. That's the plan. That's the plan. That's the plan. I mean, if I'm still healthy, and like that's the plan. I already have it in my head. So if I'm gonna change course, I'm gonna have some reason to change course. But yeah, 150. I feel like with modern medicine and I love life. I don't want to die.
Yeah, no, I certainly don't want to die, man. There's sometimes I get tired of it. I'm like, what is on the other side, right? What is, man? Do we come back? Do we reincarnate? Do we have to do it all over again? And I have questions about heaven too, because if I make it to heaven and say like my best friend doesn't make it, is that heaven to me if my best friend's not there?
Right. Oh, dude, there's so many questions about heaven. Like, do you have to have a job? Like, do you have to? Like, do you have a house? Like, yeah, it's like, because if you're like, what if you get your happiness from working and like, but everyone just has all the free stuff, then maybe that might be boring, and then you're gonna be bored. Do they have games? Like, well, how do you have purpose? Like, what's like the free ice cream for everyone? I don't know. Does that put weight on you and make you a lot of questions?
Yeah, I can tell. I always
A lot
I
of
forget what
questions.
comedian said it, but he's like, and what's with the gate? Is it a gated community? Like, what's on the
Yeah.
outside?
Do we have like Instagram? Like, no
As long as we
idea.
can podcast, I'm fine. If I can podcast and sit in heaven and have God on the show,
Yeah.
have 100 questions for him. You know what I mean? Tell me about these
Yeah.
pyramids, man. For real, I need to know.
Yeah.
I really need to know. If you could ask God any question, what one question would you ask him? You get one question.
I could ask God one question. Honestly, I would want to have a tree of all like my family members dating back to the beginning of time, and then get a chance to like see who was like the coolest one in my family tree, and like maybe there's someone that looks exactly like me from like generations ago. I would get all my family history, and
Trace it all the way
like,
back to the original Neanderthal that was there.
Yep, exactly. And then like I think that'd be really cool. I think that'd be really cool. I don't know. If I had some more time, I might have something better. But the pyramids would be an obvious one. Like I guess if we were already in heaven, you don't have to ask, is there a heaven?
Right, true.
And yeah, I'd want to see all my deceased relatives. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I don't know what I'd ask him, man. Maybe ask him if you want to hit the bowl or something. You want to hit the bong or something? Ask him that. Did you put weed here on purpose?
That's a good one.
Was that supposed to happen? I'm not quite sure.
That'd be awesome to hit a bong with God.
Yeah. Back in the day, man, I used to be in the nightclub business for a long time, and we did a Friday night. It was a reggae Friday night, and I'm a big reggae fan, like old school reggae, new school, all
Okay,
that stuff. And we started booking all these concerts on Friday. So I set one of my bucket lists was at the time was to smoke a blunt with all of my favorite reggae music artists. And I got lucky. I got to smoke with like Buju Banton. I got to smoke with Cableton, Lady Saw. Right, a couple of them got to check off, man. And
how'd you do it?
well,
Like, just
sometimes
like-
they just invite me into the limo out back. Like this guy Cableton,
Nice.
he goes by the Fireman, right? And he wears this big
Okay.
headset thing. I wasn't even allowed to talk to him. All his crew had to relay what he was saying to me. And then he passed a blunt down that limo, was probably a foot long.
Damn,
It was wild, man.
that's pretty cool. That's a cool goal.
Yeah, back in the day, man. That was many, many lifetimes ago, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I came across your podcast, man. And anytime I see another Lowery doing his thing, man, especially with the E. I always look for the E.
So cool. Yeah, because Kyle Lowery, he's in the NBA. He doesn't have the E. Like, there's a
He doesn't
golfer
count.
that doesn't have the E. Doesn't count. Want to know what I never know? Is our last name 3 syllables or 2 syllables? Is it Lowery or Lowry?
Interesting. Lowry. It's 2 syllables, dang it. It's
Lowry.
Lowry.
Okay.
Just
Sean
Lowery, man.
Adam Lowry. Okay, yeah.
Right?
I guess it's 2, but Lowry. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, 2 is, I guess, would be the answer. But I've thought about that over the years.
You're the only other white Lowry I know that's not my family member.
There's not many of them. Yeah, there's not many. Like, do people always say to you, like, "Oh, are you like Mike Lowry from Bad Boys?"
All the time, man.
I get that. I get that a lot.
I lived that crazy life in my early 20s, man. I wrote about that in the book. I mean, I had a nuts life, man. So it was Mike Lowry, or Mercy was the street name, but it was always Mike Lowry. What's up, Mike Lowry? I'm like, thank you, Will Smith. At least they know how to say it right now, right? It's not Adam Lowry anymore.
Right, I get Lowry sometimes. Yeah.
Lowry. Have you ever heard that? That's why I want to look at somebody like Adam Lowry. I'm like, have you really ever heard that name? Come on.
No, never heard it.
Yeah, I did.
And then there's a Salt too, like Salt. It's called Lowry's. It's spelled differently, but there's the Kanye West song where he's like giving him salty looks, Lowry's. And every time, I'm always like, yeah, I love that part of the song because it's like calling out my last name.
When it's singlet, when I was single, it helped because like Lowry's like the seasoned salt, and you're like, yes, I belong to that dynasty. That's right. And they're like, oh my god,
that's spelled way differently. That's like Lawry or something like that.
Yeah, I went deep into history with my brother on our last name, and I'm actually 50% Native American, Croatan.
Oh, really? 50% Native American.
Yeah, he went deep on this thing, man, and he found the 3 different spellings, and they were from, or 4 different spellings they were all from 4 different grandfathers. So to tell them apart, they changed the spelling. That's why some are R-I-E or R-Y or E-R-Y.
What? To tell them apart?
Yeah, for the different family lineages.
Interesting.
And changed the last name. It went deep. It's a whole Southern thing because it used to be McLowry, and we're related to the McLowry brothers from way back. Those crazy fucks.
I don't know them. Who's that?
Yeah, McLowry brothers. They were in the shootout at the OK Corral.
Okay.
You seen Tombstone?
Tombstone. No, I don't think so.
With Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday and all that. They mentioned the McLowry brothers are in the Cowboy
90s
gang.
movie? No, I've never seen it.
Oh, dude, come on. That's like the king of the one-liners.
Damn. Well, I got to go see it now that the McLowrys are mentioned in it.
That's right. Well, they're terrible characters, though. I was kind of like, come on, man. They were kind of weak. Bothered me.
Yeah, we don't get a lot of, like, Lowrys in Hollywood and shit, so it's got to be good. But
Just me and you, baby. Just me and you, man.
that's right. We can compete for, like, who ranks higher in Google results in, like, 5 years or something.
No, you keep doing your thing, man. I try to stay under the radar, man. I stay under the radar.
Yeah, like I saw you on Joe Rogan.
Yeah. I did that show 2015. I was on.
How'd that go about? I mean, that's obviously like the #1 podcast in the world right now. It's like my favorite podcast. But like, how did that happen? How did you get on that podcast?
It was wild, man. I was out in LA doing a couple things, and what was crazy, the part I didn't tell anybody, I told a little bit on a few podcasts, but 2 nights before, I was out at the Joshua Tree. I was 7 grams of mushrooms in.
Damn, that's a lot of mushrooms.
I was out there, man. I was out there talking to coyotes and shit. I was out there, man. And now, mind you, this speaks to what you talk about, right? The belief thing, right? Yeah. So I became a fan of Rogan like 2012, something like that. I started listening, and I was a psychologist at the time, mental health therapist at the time, treating addiction. And I kept saying, I'm going to be on that show. I'm going to be on that show. People laugh at me, and I'm like, I'm telling you, I'm going to reveal the corruption and addiction treatment. I'm going to be on that show. I'll be damned. 2015, I wind up on that show revealing the corruption in the addiction field, man. It happened like that. We hung out and chatted for a little bit, and I was kind of explaining what I call chemical incarceration, how it's all kind of set up, and went and told that story.
I was watching some clips from it, but like you believed that it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then it happened. I mean, there's obviously something very powerful to that. But like, did you seek him out? Did he seek you out? Like, how did
we were at the Improv having a drink?
Yeah. You do comedy?
Yeah, I do. And we were at the Improv having a drink, and then Don Marrera was with him, his wife, and I just said, hey, man, what's up? And then just started talking about what I'd been doing and things like that. And it was just like, hey, can you do a show tomorrow? And I was like, yeah, of course I can. I played it off cool as shit, though. I was like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah.
And then
you're just like, when he walked away, were you like, yes?
I did more than that. I ran out front of the Improv, and I ran laps around the fucking Improv, man.
Damn.
Yeah, because I snuck my daughter into the Improv. My daughter was only 16 at the time.
Okay.
I snuck her in the Improv just so we could watch some comedy. And I was having some drinks hanging, man. And she's like, I'm going to go outside. I want to go hang out, shoot some pictures of some of this car. I ran out. I said, guess what, Morgan? I'm going on Joe Rogan tomorrow. And she goes, shut up, Dad. I'm like, yeah, I am, man. Ran 2 laps around. It was cool, man. Really cool experience. It was fun. Nice guy. We played some pool afterwards.
You were on there. Did I see you were on there with Nick DiPaolo?
Yeah, with Nick.
And he is like, I know him. He's a comedian. I think he was on in the past year or something. Yeah. Did you know him? Like, why the two of you? He usually doesn't always have 2 guests.
No, I think he did that for some comedy relief for some of the deep, dark shit I was talking about.
Okay.
My guess was some comedy relief, or he had 2 scheduled and just fit it in.
Just throw it together?
Yeah, just see what happens. Yeah, because Red Band was on the show, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was me and Red Band. And it was crazy. He was being interviewed at the time by Rolling Stone. And on that podcast on YouTube, you see this old long-haired dude sitting in the corner. And people were asking, who's that guy, who's that guy? So he's been interviewed. After the show was over, my fanboy ass doesn't leave, right? So I'm hanging out in the lobby. And we're sitting there. And I brought us a little fine green to smoke, right? So I light up the blunt a little bit. But he's being interviewed at the Rolling Stone guy shooting some pool. And the Rolling Stone guy, he's like, hey, I got to get going. I got to go interview Donald Trump because he's talking about running for president. Right? I was like, holy shit.
This was 2015?
Yeah, it was June or July 2015, man. And got to play him in a game of pool, too. Got him all the way down to the 9-ball. Me and him, just the 9-ball. And I missed the 9-ball, and he won and took the game.
He's pretty good at pool. Doesn't he play a lot?
Yeah. He thought I was sharking him. He thought I was sharking him because I was like, I was talking noise and shit. It was crazy, man. It was fun. But I tell you what, man, it changed my life a lot because within 2 hours of being off that podcast, I was fired from both of my therapist jobs.
Why?
They let me go. I was revealing.
Oh, right. Because of what you said on the podcast.
Yep.
I listened to it a little bit. I saw some clips of it before I was coming on, but you were basically saying that the addiction industry is like fraudulent, basically, right? Yeah,
for the most part, dude. I got some what I call podcast remorse. Like I said some shit on there where I was too general and I spoke in jest, really quickly. That was the very first podcast, Sean, I've ever done in my life.
Really?
You remember Ustream back in the day?
Barely, but yeah.
Yeah, I had a little Ustream thing that I was giving lessons of psychology and stuff on. I mean, for like 4 people. You know what I mean? I'd never done a podcast. So my first walk in the studio do a podcast was that fucking show.
Damn. And I don't think it was like number 1 in the world then, but it was still huge, right?
Yeah, it was still big. It was the old studio.
Okay, right. Yeah, dude, that's a great first podcast to be on.
Yeah, I'll give you.
But you said you had remorse, because you got fired. Did you not want to get fired? I mean, you knew what you were doing, right?
No, yeah, I didn't care about that. That made me double down. When they fired me, I'm like, okay, we're gonna double down. And then the podcast and all that shit was born. I'm like, all right, we're gonna go to war. But I said I have 3 things that I have major remorse for, man. And as a branding guy, you would know this, and it would eat you up alive. He asked me what cognitive rampage meant, and it has its real definition of what it means. And I responded with, sometimes when I talk, I get rampagey. That's how I branded the whole fucking name, man.
Damn. So you're like, if you could go back in time, you would. you would that could have been your like moment, like the head of your website or something. Like
Something. Yeah, something. But what's crazy is I had no website. I'd written the first book, but I rushed it too fast. So my buddy Steve, the other part of this podcast, one of the other producers, he's back in Orlando trying to build a website overnight to have something put up before I went on there. Just working hard on it, man. But it was I said that. Then he asked me if I thought addiction was a disease. I flat out responded no. It's up for debate and depends on who you ask.
Interesting debate, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, hell no. You know what I mean? I was just pissed and just said that. And then the thing that haunts me the most, though, in jest, with context, I said that Suboxone was just like heroin. It was the same thing, and it's totally not.
That's like a painkiller.
Suboxone is it's a harm reduction drug. You typically take that and to get you off of opiates or heroin.
Okay.
And you take that instead, right? It's harm reduction. But I was just like, yeah, it's the same thing, right? And I was like, oh, I sound like a fucking idiot, dude.
But I mean, that's the beauty of live podcasting. Like, you did it, but
fuck.
I don't know. Maybe, yeah, but
fuck, man.
But yeah, maybe like, did you like kind of plan out what you were gonna say before you went on it, or just kind of winged it a little bit?
I had been bitching that corruption for years already. I kind of had it down, you know, and so I knew what I wanted to cover. I covered most of it and some of it, man. I do have a lot of remorse for that show, and tried to make up for it later, but it was cool, man. It pushed me this far, and to keep going, to keep writing more books and keep putting shit out there and keep fighting. It's been what, 5 fucking years? Yeah, 5 years now.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I just learned about you recently when you tuned into my my live show. And you said, hey, another Lowery. What's up, man?
Yeah, I've been watching you, man. I've been watching you, seeing what you're doing, because you got some good ads running on Facebook. It pops up on my shit. And I'm like, all right. And I think a friend of mine, I can't remember who it was, showed me your stuff too. And I was kind of like, all right, let me check on this cat, man. Let me tune into him, man.
Man, that's me. I'm just, I don't know, just doing my thing. Like, that's cool to even hear. Like, someone was talking about me or getting started, because, like, I've just been doing this for about a year. And, just having fun with it, man. But
what pushed you to do it, man? What pushed you to say, all right, I'm doing this thing?
Like, basically, like, start a podcast and everything, put my content out there. I mean, I've just been like wanting to do it forever, and I mean, I'm very busy running my company. That's the main thing I do. Like, I'm an entrepreneur. I still run my business like 95% of the time, and I just honestly I'm just talking my girlfriend's ear off all the time and talking like, you know, and like I always have all these ideas, talking to my friends, and I'm like, so many people are out there just starting podcasts, and like, why not me? I think I have a lot to give back. I think I have a lot to say. I think I can have interesting conversations, and I know that it's going to be like, you know, the first time you put something out there, it's probably not going to be a huge hit right away, but I already know that, like, I'm down for a grind. And ultimately, like, it's fun. I'm having fun doing it, and I'm getting to talk to people like you. And I just wanted to do it, man. I really don't know. And honestly, I don't know what exactly it's going to, like, turn into. Will I write a book? I don't know. But once a week, I put out the podcast. I'm forcing myself to do it. And now I got someone helping me that's, like, kind of creating videos. And just something inside me was like, start a podcast, start doing it. And I'm just following my little instinct there. And I don't know, that's not like the best reason, but it's been a blast, man. It's a lot of fun.
That's the fun part. I mean, you're bringing on a couple heavy hitters too on the show, man.
Yeah. I just had I had Patrick Bet David, who's like a huge entrepreneur guy. And then it's funny, do you know who Brad Lee is?
Yeah, I listened to your post about the Brad Lee show.
Yeah.
Prior.
It was like a fucking flop, dude. It was just didn't go well. I don't know. It was like, he's like a strong personality, and then he was like late, and then the sound was bad, and like, I don't know, it threw me off my game, and like it wasn't my best performance, but hey, he's still a pretty big guy, and I got to talk with him. And I think that, like, when you reach out to, I'm building upon my guests, and like when I reach out to bigger guests, like, I think they just do a little glance and be like, okay, yeah, these guys on, so like, yeah, it is what it is. And I just try to be as raw as possible. Like, the fact that it was bad, I don't know, I'm not trying to hide it. Like, whatever, I'm an idiot. Like, I messed up a lot, and I'm just trying to, like, not overthink and just be myself. So yeah, it wasn't my best performance, but yeah, it's so cool. Like, talking to Patrick Bet David was like, it was just like,
I see you getting a little smitten over there. You're getting a little like, holy shit. That's fun. I felt
But
that way with Dr. Carl Hart, who I had on, man. And I just, from the field I was in, just somebody I really admired like crazy, and went into his interview. And I typically don't prep for an interview. I don't. I just want to flow, man. I'll if I'm sound like a dummy, I'll sound like a dummy, but I'll just flow. But for him, I wanted to perform, right? So I'm doing this research. I got questions, and man, I'm 5 minutes in that podcast. I'm going, this is shit right now. What am I doing? I threw the questions away, man. I'm like, all right, let me dive into this shit, man, and just go into it.
Yeah, I like that. The conversational flow, I think, is good. Like, that's one of my problems with Brad Lee. Like the vibe changed a little bit, and I was still trying to go back to like my prepped kind of cadences and questions, and like I like just the flow, just conversation. I think it's a lot better.
Fuck yeah, man. Freestyle. If people can tell if you got that set question right and you're trying to be that NPR interviewer, you know what I mean?
Right.
No disrespect to NPR, right? But like that kind of overproduced, over interviewed.
Right.
Some people dig that though. I mean, if you're interviewing people.
I mean, right. There's a place for it. Usually it's like a late night guy, which like I like when late night guys do like their little comedy bit in the beginning, but whenever the guests come on, I always turn it off because like it's some Hollywood guy trying to push a movie.
It's shit,
like it's just I like late night shows, but only the beginning when they do a few like corny jokes about like the news.
They got to sit down and it's terrible. Those shows are dead, man. They're dead. I loved how all of those shows now, when COVID hit, they had to start competing with the podcast budgets. Now you're in the field, and to watch them struggle trying to set up studios at home, you know, but they're still held within the broadcasting range of what they can and can't say.
Right. They can't curse. They gotta be politically correct with their jokes, all that stuff.
Yep.
But I mean, and then now some of them are back in the studio, and there's no audience. And like Jimmy Fallon, and like it's pretty awkward, man. Like
it's shit. The laugh track is terrible.
Everything I know about stand-up comedy like is from Joe Rogan because he always talks about it on the podcast. But like the audience is so important, right? Yeah. Like, do you still do stand-up?
Yeah, I got a show this Saturday, a show on the 12th, and a show on the 26th of September.
What kind of shit do you do jokes about?
Oh man, when I first started, it was terrible because I was doing therapist jokes and punching down at my clients, and some people would laugh and they were generally sick as I was, and then other people, the oxygen just would leave the room. You know what I mean? It was some dark shit. You know,
I love dark jokes, man. I love like.
It was.
I don't know.
It was bad.
I just think it's funny.
It was fucking bad.
It was bad.
It was bad, man. Other therapists would laugh, but everybody else would be like, "That's fucked up. I don't think you should say that. He has clients. I don't think he should do that." It's like whatever. But
that's like the beauty of comedy, though. Like one thing that I learned from Joe Rogan I think is so interesting is like how much you practice up to like a special, and how much like you have to test out your little bits and then like touch them up, and like that's so interesting to me. It's like it's
the hardest thing I've ever had to do, Sean. It's the hardest thing. I'm gonna sound like a narcissist. I'm decently okay at anything I try except singing. I'm decently okay, right? So I'm used to kind of picking something up and going like, all right, I got this. Fuck that, dude. Comedy is the hardest freaking thing I've ever had to do in my life, and have sucked at, and still would tell myself I suck at. It's fucking difficult, man.
And like you write a funny joke. Why can't and then you can't just go out there and deliver it? Like what part makes it so difficult is that you don't know what different audience might give you a different reaction, or like you have to. Is that part of it?
Yeah, the jokes hit. They could hit on the dinner crowd, and then the late crowd's like nothing. Crowd does matter. Sometimes it doesn't, right? If you can get the jokes just right and really work them. I mean, shit that you think's funny, then you walk out there and say, you're like, oh, that was terrible. It's not even nothing.
How much is freestyled up there? Like, probably, I would imagine not a very high percentage.
That's my best feel. When I do material, I get shitty. When I freestyle and I fuck with the crowd and shit like that.
Okay, crowd work. I heard.
I'm good.
That,
I'm good because I can host. I've been speaking a long time. I can host and hang a show. That's what I'm doing with these shows. I'm hosting all the shows. So as a host, I'm comfortable, you know. But man, if I have to start working into some material, fucking watch out, man. Yeah. It's not.
I'd imagine you have like a couple bits in the back of your head, and then you try to maybe pick and choose them and use them for the right crowd, but I guess that's kind of freestyle, but kind of planned.
Yeah, you're nailing it. Yeah, you got it right. Yeah. You got a couple jokes in case the crowd work is shit, no one's talking to you, you know. It's fucking tough. I like the challenge, man. I like the challenge. I'd say 3.5 years, maybe 3.5 years, something like that. been doing it, I probably have 10 minutes.
Okay.
You know, that I would say, yeah, that's going to do good. That 10 minutes is going to do. I've done
Tried, true.
Yeah, I've done 45 minutes and poor crowd. You know what I mean? Sorry for that. But, you know, I've done that cuz I own a comedy club too.
You do?
Yeah. So
Dave, you're a man of many interesting backgrounds.
I've done some weird shit, man. Wherever it takes me.
Like, so you used to be a therapist.
Yeah.
And then Joe Rogan hit and you weren't anymore.
Then I was a podcaster, author. I think I write in my bio, I was like, retired drug dealer, turn retired nightclub entrepreneur, turn retired therapist, turn author, podcaster, comedian.
That's a hell of a transition. Do you still like do drugs and stuff? Or do you still drink? Like,
I have a couple beers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the addiction like thing I think is like so interesting. Like people that have to recover from it, because going dead sober for the rest of your life is like usually like the answer, right? Like for people that are alcoholics. Like I always think that's interesting because I remember in Entourage, the TV show Entourage, like Vince,
I love that show.
Vince goes to like coke therapy, and then like they're like clearing out the house of alcohol. Johnny John was like, get rid of everything underneath the sink. And like, eventually Vince is like, I just want to smoke a joint, man. Like, I'm fine. Like, and I always think that is like it's one of my, I love drinking. And like, I don't want to become an alcoholic because then I could never drink again. And like,
look, remember, it's only considered addiction if it affects your biopsychosocial. If it does not affect your biopsychosocial negatively, it is not addiction.
Biopsychosocial.
If it affects your biology, your liver's failing, you're sick, you're losing weight or gaining weight, right? It's affecting your bio in any form. And in your psycho, the way you're thinking, what you're thinking, how you think, how you believe, and your social, your job, your friends, your relationships. If it is negatively affecting those three, then it's, quotes, addiction. Otherwise, it's not considered addiction by the book.
You're just a party boy.
Yeah, just have a good time.
That actually makes perfect sense. Like, yeah, if you're not fucking your life up and your body's healthy, like, then you're not. Yeah, it's so interesting, man. Like,
yeah, it's nuts. That field is crazy, man. I'm sort of, I think I'm trying to pull away from that field. You know, I've been talking about that shit, man, for 5 years now. I put 2 books out on it, a podcast on it. Since I've gotten the comedy world and the comedy clubs and doing stand up, I've really switched over to that side. I mean, dude, I was doing 2 live videos a day on my phone, giving people, think about this and this and that, and you do this in your life. Like, I was like hardcore, man, and I just feel like I'm done, man. Like I'm tapped out. I still have doctors and people that come on about new science and stuff like that. Like the last 3 doctors I had on were really cool, dropping some great information and knowledge. But I think I like how you named your show the Sean Lowery Show. We help produce people's podcasts. We have about 6 or 7 other podcasts we produce, and I tell them every time, brand with your name.
I debated that a little bit, like, and I've heard some people say you shouldn't do that because then you're like, you're not niching, you're not like, people don't know who you are yet, so like they're not just gonna click on it. And if you name it something like the Cognitive Rampage or the Entrepreneur Show or something, like they might be more likely to find it. And I was just like, screw it, I'm going with the Sean Lowery Show. Like, it might take a long time for people to know who I am, but I don't know. That's what I wanted to do it. But that's interesting that you said that because I've heard the opposite advice.
I think it's smart because you don't pigeonhole yourself. I sit on the other side. Because I'm the Cognitive Rampage, I'm expected to cognitively rampage. I'm expected to bring on mental health things, doctors, alternative health. I'm kind of expected to do that. You know, and I'm pigeonholed into that, right? Because I didn't name it that.
And since you've changed, like all the different things you just mentioned, that you've gone from this thing to this thing to this thing, like, why do you find yourself that you change it? Just because, like you said, with the cognitive stuff, like, you kind of got like sick of it, or the psychology stuff, you just got sick of it and like already had exhausted all your like thoughts on it and just kind of sick of it, and then move on to something else that's more fun for you?
Yeah, I'm a different project guy. I like moving and doing. That's why my hands have been in so many things, man. There's probably nothing I haven't done, right? At least tried, right? That's one of my end goals, right? Is to try everything. I consider what we do for a living, right? Because the days of the Iliad and the Odyssey are over, right? We can't take the journey. We can't go to war, right? We're not saving the princess, right? We can't do that anymore.
So true.
And so, like, what I feel now, our journeys are what we choose to do for a living. So what business you start, a podcast you do, that's your journey, and that's what I've used, man. I've tried this market, that market, this market, just to try all the things to say, look, that's been my adventures. My adventures are what I'm doing now for a living. You know what I mean?
That's amazing, and I love that, and that's very honorable. Like, I think it's funny though, because like the other perspective is like from a business perspective, you want to like do the one thing and then just become so damn good at it that 15 years in that you're just like the best at it, and it takes time to build it up. So like those are conflicting, like one's more like personal fulfillment, I guess, and one might be more like strictly business strategy. And maybe that's the reason I started my podcast. I mean, my business sells like girls' clothing, and like I've been doing it only for like 4 or 5 years, and our business is building and building. It's going great, and like I get sick of it sometimes. So like, yeah, the Sean Lowery Show can be my personal outlet, but like I don't want to stop doing that because that's like my moneymaker. So yeah, I get
Sometimes
that,
you
but
got to
that's
burn it down and walk away, man. Like that's what I did. I was in the club business. I was managing I had ownership partner with another club. We had a lot of clubs going, man. And just one random night, dude, I walked away from everything. Like I gave all my shit away.
and it,
I dipped.
was it struggling? Like
No, we were
not
killing.
at all,
My accountant lost his fucking mind.
dude. I like. So are you motivated by money?
No, it's what I feel a passion to do something or to try something, and I'm like, all right, I gotta do that now. I'm there now, and that's why I'm kind of like the mental health thing. The mental health shit is exhausting, man. You know, because hundreds of people emailing you, ask you questions, you know, telling you some bad shit about their lives. You know, I was trying to answer everybody, trying to help everybody for 5 years. You know, eventually I started getting sick, man. I started getting anxious and depressed and kind of like,
That's
man,
crazy.
yeah, you take all that shit on, man. And at the time when I started, there wasn't a whole lot of people speaking out about the opioid epidemic. You know, you had the one documentary that came out, Oxycontin train or some shit like that. What was it called?
Where I don't. I probably watched it, 'cause
Oxycontin
I'm
Express.
interested in that stuff. Okay.
Oxycontin Express.
I think I've seen that. Yeah, but I mean now that's like a big issue that's out in the open, right?
That's why I stepped away. When I saw
Okay.
John Oliver cover it pretty hardcore,
Yeah.
that was probably 2 years ago or something. I nearly cried, bro, because I was like, it's out there now. If he's doing that topic, if they're covering that topic, it's out there. People know that this is happening.
And that was your objective to that's such a just motivation to actually want to get that out there, and like it's such a big problem. Not enough people know about it. You just wanted to get it out there. You see John Oliver talking about it. Not gonna lie, I might be more like, well, now that it's out there, this is my chance to shine, and this is my chance to like be the leading person on the issue. But you were just happy the fact that it was out there. It wasn't about you. It was just more about the community and the world and
They
the country
got
or
it.
whatever.
It's out there. People understand it's a fucking problem. It's still a fucking problem. We haven't done shit about it. You know what I mean? We haven't done shit about it. Now there's more mental health issues than ever because everybody's been on lockdown. That's one of the jokes that I use when I open up. I said, do you know the first question on a depression survey?
I've never taken one, so no.
Have you been isolating? Our government is telling us to do the first question on a depression survey, right? So they're telling us to isolate, right? So you're going to have issues like that, man. And it's still an issue, but I'm done, man. I got a shift, man. I shift a lot. And you're right. It's not the best business strategy. It's certainly not the Gary V way to do it, right? Pick something you're good at, triple and double dog down on that thing,
Yeah.
become the way on it.
He always is flip flopping. He also says to do all kinds of different stuff. He says both things. He says to do all kinds of stuff and just to do one thing.
That's safe.
But yeah.
I do that a lot on my podcast, man. A lot of people don't know what I actually believe because I'll argue this point and then I argue this point right back. Because I typically say if you can't argue both sides of an argument, you're not fully competent. You got to be able to debate and defend both sides. If you can do that, I'd call you fully competent.
I like that. That's kind of like my my take on like politics. It's like it's so like divisive, and like I just like to think about the perspective from both sides and just chill out with it, and that's the way to be. That's what America needs to get better at. Is just think for yourself. I feel like anytime I have someone that has an original thought, I love them, and I think that's so cool because so many people just jump into what they're supposed to think or regurgitating something they heard from someone else. I even before this podcast, I was scrape my brain a little bit. I was like, what could be a super original thought that I could bring up, just because I think original thoughts are so cool. Even in an analogy or like a phrase, like, like, I don't know, like time flies, or like hair, like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of an example, but like something that people always say that's like a common expression. Like if you just say something that's different to mean the same thing, it's like, oh, that person thought of that themselves.
Yeah.
And like I just love people who think their own original thoughts. I think it's like one of the badges of honor that I can like give someone that's they say something and thought of something that I've never heard before.
Yeah, I argue that there is no original thought.
I mean, it's
I
hard.
argue that. I actually wrote in my book where I tried, because I invented, I came up and found a theory for treatment. I got tired of just bitching at people. So I was like, what do we do, right? So trans-rational structure behavior theory was the theory I founded, and to treat people. But I worked it, I write in the book, like I work like John Nash from A Beautiful Mind, trying to find the original idea. But it's as if we really do stand on the shoulder of giants, right? Like Joseph Campbell says, and make building blocks for the next giants, and we build on each other, right? And I think there's original inventions and stuff like that, obviously,
Okay.
right? People make it.
But no original thought. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I think
That's
somewhere
maybe,
along the way.
that's maybe why I said I like like at least an analogy or a phrase or something that is not a thought, but at least like a new like look at it.
Yeah.
Damn, no original thought. That's like, damn.
Right. It's kind of pessimistic.
I
right?
don't like it, but I think I might like agree with you. I mean,
Somebody's thought it somewhere before and maybe didn't take action, right? There's a difference between having a thought and taking action on that thought or idea or business or whatever you want to call it, right? And then thinking that we have that original idea of going, yeah, this is an original idea that no one's ever thought about. But how many people have been like, I thought about that? That something comes out, makes it big. They're like, I thought of that. I just didn't do anything with it, right?
yeah. I mean, ideas, especially in like a business sense, a lot of times ideas are absolutely worthless. Like you gotta execute. That's what it's all about. And that's when it takes years and years and years and getting the building on it, and then becoming the best. And then you can like as if you're motivated by money. And I admire that you're not. And like, I kind of am in a way that like, I'm a gamer. Like I go to the gym, Orange Theory Fitness, every morning, 5 a.m. And one of the reasons I like it, my girlfriend actually switched gyms, and now we like go to different gyms at the same time in the morning. And I like it because they keep my stats. Oh, sorry. They keep like my stats, like my best time and how many splat points, which is like your heart in the orange zone every day. And like if I'm fasting, like I hit the button on the app, like anything I can do to like gamify something is just, I don't know. I like that. That's
You like the competition.
Yeah, I like the competition. I like having like a scoreboard. I like when my brother came down. He lives in New York City, and he brought like his Xbox, and we play NBA 2K, and we keep track of who won each game and on a little piece of paper. Like it just anytime I can gamify something, I enjoy it more. Therefore, money's is like the ultimate like. I'm not like obsessed with money, just the building of it, and like money is business, and like. I've just learned to become like not ashamed by saying like I care about money, because like my Shopify app on my phone, I'm checking all day to see my sales. Like that is money, but like it also means that we put a product in the market that people are liking, finding what people like, giving it more of them, like, and then that's something that you can build on to build a business. But like it's all quantified in money, and like that makes it fun for me. So like it'd be hard for me to like, just passion in your soul. It's like not as much quantified. Obviously that's important too, and like. Happiness can't really quantify, and I think it's the most important thing in the world.
Well,
happiness
is I don't know. Happiness is sort of this subjective thing we talk about. It's an emotional moment that we create ourselves, right? So everything that we believe comes from what we've experienced, right? So for your belief that money is a motivator is fine, because where you apply those beliefs is where you find happiness in that. You're creating happy moments, right? And you see the money as saying, hey, this product worked, our idea worked. The path is working, right? People are happy with the product we're making, right? You're seeing that, as a response if you've done it right. And so anything we believe, I argue there's no truth, right? That there is absolutely no truth whatsoever. If you rode a roller coaster, Sean, and told me it wasn't scary, I rode it and said it was scary, who's telling the truth?
I mean, what color is this can? That's the truth. It's yellow.
Is
truth,
it?
Right?
Yeah. It's banana.
Okay.
Right. So it's a perception that we choose, right? So that's I've talked about that a lot. So we create the truth. We create what we believe. That's kind of the tool I teach people to say, look, at any moment you create how you feel. So if you're saying I'm sad, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, what you're thinking is creating those feelings, right? We have beliefs that shape what you think creates what you feel. If you want to change how you feel, change what you think. But that is some bullshit, though, because I get mad when people are like, just reframe your thought and feel better. Horseshit, man. You got to go deeper into the beliefs that are creating how and why you think, and visit the beliefs to really change it. If I woke up in the morning and I go, it's going to be a shitty day, and I go, wait, no, it's not. Let me recorrect that. It's going to be a great day. 3 minutes later, I'm like, it's a shitty fucking day still, right? Like you're still there.
Right.
It's the beliefs
like you can't. It's not a day by day thing. Like you can't. But if every day you wake up and you say it's going to be a good day, don't you think that can build into like making that be a belief inside of you?
It can, but how many people say it's going to be a good day, but they're waiting for that shoe to drop, right? To go up. I fucking knew it, right? We want to be right more than anything. I think it helps, definitely, reaffirming, verbal confirmation, constantly reaffirming, because that's how you then create a belief, right? So the beliefs that you have about yourself, others in the world, they got there from how and what you think in your past experience over time. So,
exactly.
So you're right. If I'm committing myself, I'm shaping new beliefs that way. Yeah. I was saying that to circle back. Look, I like money. Don't get me twisted. But I don't like the dude I was when I was chasing money. And so because of those past experiences, the dude that I was when I was money chasing, whether it was the dope man or the nightclub guy, I was a fucking prick, man.
Yeah.
I was not cool, man. And I think maybe now I'm just trying to get into heaven. Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm just maybe I'm just trying to get into heaven.
You're into heaven, huh? Like are you a religious guy?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Not at all? Are you joking about the heaven thing, or like you're serious, or like?
No, yeah, I'm just joking about trying to get.
Are
you kidding? Okay. I've been banned, bro. There's certain things you do where they're like blacklist.
If you're Catholic, all you have to do is live a shitty life, and at the very end, just ask for forgiveness, and you're good.
Just right there, and you're in.
Yeah, just be like, I'm sorry.
Yeah. But, no, I'm not religious, man. I not in the least bit. But also not atheist. I'm not smart enough to be atheist, and I'm not smart enough to be religious either.
I always say, I think I am atheist, but I'm atheist from, I don't believe in the God in the Bible. Like, I don't think those exact things, like, I don't think Noah's Ark happened.
Right.
I don't think he walked on water. Like, I don't think that we started by, like a brother and a sister having kids, and then they all had kids, because we know biologically that wouldn't work.
Yeah,
right. Adam and Eve. So like, I'm an atheist as far as that. I don't believe in the God from the Bible, but like as far as like spirits and energy and shit, like I don't know, man. That's where we probably agree. Like I'm not smart enough to.
Who fucking knows? Know. That's the real question is who fucking knows, right? Either side. If you're an atheist, then you're smart enough to know there definitely isn't, which is impossible. And if you're fully religious, you could be considered delusional or just heavy in faith, right?
Right.
Then you really know. It's funny, man, how us humans walk around with those beliefs that we know are 100% fact, and we can be like, it's true. It's true.
Yeah, and we have no idea. Like, that would be so cool to find out what happens. I mean, I kind of think it's like probably just nothingness. Like it's probably like a lot like before you were born, like nothing. But like, I understand why religion has been like so popular over like centuries and centuries. Like, I think if everyone believed that there was an afterlife, like the world would be a better place. Like everyone would be kinder to each other and do good things. It's like a good thing for the masses to believe in, I think. Like better than believing in like a government or like a dictator, like a figure or like a person. Like it's probably good for masses of society to believe that there's a God, and if they're good, like their afterlife will be good. I mean, I think
you're being watched, motherfucker. You're being watched. So
yeah, it's like the best babysitter that there could be. But
it probably is, man. Who knows, man? I think it probably would be a better place if we all were worried that it's heaven or hell in the choice, man, of what happens at the end of something.
Yeah,
man, it's a wild topic.
Yeah, one thing I've been thinking about is this phrase that everyone uses like nonchalantly, and I don't believe it at all. And everyone always says, like, you hear it all the time. They're like, "Oh yeah, everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason." Like, I don't believe that at all. Like, I kind of think we're just a bunch of cells, like, flying around randomly, and sometimes there's coincidences. But people say that willy-nilly all the time. Like, "Oh yeah, well, everything happens for a reason." I'm like, and every time I'm like, sometimes if it's like the situation arises it, I'll like be like, "No, it doesn't." But if it's sometimes, yeah. But like, do you hear that a lot? Like everything happens for a reason.
It's actually a sales tactic, right? If you're with a client and they go, everything happens for a reason, there's no coincidences, you know you've already sold them because they say that statement to confirm their biased belief of what's supposed to happen. So if, I've met a client and they're like, man, I was thinking about starting a podcast and then I met you And no coincidence, I guess I'm supposed to start a podcast. I'm like, no, dude, I'm just at a bar having a beer, man. Like, and that's just happened to be what I do. But if it confirms your biased belief, then let's go to work.
Right. Like, we're hiring this one employee, and the person that we're looking to replace them has the same last name. And the guy I'm hiring was like, hey, everything happens for a reason. I'm like, like, they just have the same last name. It's a coincidence.
Right.
But
well, hey, like, Sean, this podcast was supposed to happen. We have the same last name, man. There's no coincidences.
Hey, there's a reason. There's a reason.
There's a reason that we're doing this shit.
I mean, yeah, I think there's just a good chance you didn't ever find out about me. It's just like, and honestly, like, I think it's almost like an optimistic way to look at it, because it's more like I take the situations that happen to me and I find like the most positive spin on it. I think that's a better way to phrase everything happens for a reason.
Nailed it. I think you nailed it.
And that's a cooler way. That gives you the credit rather than
right.
whatever, you know?
Right.
Like, so it's like a weak ass phrase that is overused, way overused. But you're right. It's confirming a previous thought and taking the credit away from yourself, which is the person who deserves it.
God put you here, man. It mustn't, no coincidence. But a lot of that's from fear, though, right? I mean, we typically live in fear, right? So the idea of there must be a God, there must be a reason, there has to be an afterlife, because if there isn't, a lot of human brains can't handle the fact that it might be pointless, that there's no real judgment, right? That it's just over, right? And that would drive a lot of fucking people crazy. To be like, there's nothingness? What are you talking about, right?
Right.
They need that. We believe that out of a fear, I think.
Right. It's good for the masses, I think. Like, do you have any big fears, like stuff like that in life? Like, I mean, you know, the advice is to be fearless and stuff, but like, do you have anything that is like something that's a fear that worries you?
Let me see. A fear that worries me. What is probably I'm going to be raw with you. Try to figure out like my darkest raw fear. I think it may be one and the same. One, that I die early, and two, that I die too long, too old.
You don't want to live to 150 with me?
God, no. I won't be able to make it, man. I mean, nobody will be around. I mean, I don't want to die, you know, young in my 40s, 50s, right? Because that's tragic. And I don't think I want to be 85 years old with a weird look on my face, wrinkled as fuck, not knowing who anybody is either. You know what I mean?
That's gonna be one of my keys. I'm gonna have to like start over at some point to be to 150. But yeah, I hear you. Like, it's fears like it comes down to like life, like dying, like. But also, you can't go out every day and be scared to die.
No. What's Al Pacino say in that movie? You can get killed walking your doggy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Right? And if you are scared of dying, then you'll never leave your home, and then you might die of depression from being stuck inside. So it's like, it's a skill, I think, that is a very important skill for people to develop, is to just, I mean, not have fear. And relating back to comedy, here's been one of my approaches to be fearless in life. It's like, my favorite form of comedy is a roast, Comedy Central roasts. Like the roast, like, I love like ripping on my friends, like making fun of people, like just like taking a famous person, just like ripping them. Like, so if you have that like approach where like you're just getting laughed at, everyone's making fun of you and you're laughing at yourself, like, say you do die early, like, it's sad, but like, oh, it's kind of funny, like they died, like if you can just have like a comedic like response to anything, then you don't have to be scared of anything. Like, if my podcast is a huge disaster and like I trip and fall and everyone's laughing at me, or like I fuck up and my business fails and I have to go live back at my mom's house, like that's great roast material.
Yeah. Like, comedy responses don't work good for marriages. If they ever have a problem with you, don't keep responding in jokes, because eventually they're gonna leave you.
True, right. I'm thinking more like a meta sense, but I don't know. It's just trying to like being because I'm a serious guy. Like, I like work hard every day, go to the gym in the morning, and take life very seriously, work on my business. But I also try to just even that out with just whatever. Like, who cares? Like, I don't care if I look like an idiot. Like, I don't care. And that's just, it's freeing and it's nice. Yeah. And like, I think I'm a happy person. Like, and what'd you say before about happiness? You said like something like you don't like believe in it or something like that. Or
well, it's a subjective response that we can create at any moment we choose.
Right. So like, I choose to be happy all the time.
Yeah.
And like, I think like
that would be linked to your thought process, how you think and what you think. Right. So linked to what you believe. So you're talking about your beliefs now. I could easily see how that shapes you to think what you think and how you think. That would shape your feeling of being happy most of the time. because that's linked to what you believe about what life is, and the mental state of those. Those are all your deep-seated beliefs that are that you believe about you, yourself, others in the world, that shape how and what you think, that create the feeling of happiness constantly.
Yeah.
You're doing that.
It's been, yeah, right. And like I've done that like on purpose, like consciously, like over the years. Like I've had to work on it. And I don't know, maybe like a tragedy or something. Like my dad passed away when I was 12. I had a little like relatively hardships when I was like younger in my development, and I think that like helped shape me into. I had to move twice from like state to state. And my dad passed away from ALS when I was like 12, and at the time it was like the end of the world, especially moving like away from my friends, and like it was the hardest thing that ever could have happened. You know, relatively privileged life, but like I think having like some tragedies as a kid like helped me be able to be like a stronger adult that like has a little bit of perspective. But I don't know, maybe like say my fiance dies, like maybe I'll have a different perspective. But I like to think that I would obviously be devastated, but I would be able to not find the happiness in it, but like heal, not get like, I feel like some people, they get destroyed if they have some type of tragedy in life and they can never overcome it. I like to think that I could eventually, with the appropriate amount of time, like overcome it. And that kind of relates back to being a happy person. Like no matter what is thrown at you, even the worst type of things, if you could, I don't know, find the positives or find the way to make yourself feel okay in it. It's like, I think those are important, interesting things that are going to help me live to be 150. But,
well, yeah, I can tell you have a knack for finding the silver lining in things. Yeah, you have a knack for finding that. I can tell that already. So the thoughts that you're having that shape you to think, well, what's the positive in this stuff? This is still happening. If not, oh well, what are you going to do? You know, that's a good mindset. But I would probably argue that the devastation of the childhood, that is a terrible thing happening. I think that probably created your serious side. I think that created your serious focus side because it let you know at a young age that this is finite, that you don't have much time. And then you start working right away. I know you started the business young, and you started working, and now it's nose to the grindstone. I'm grinding. I don't have much time. That's probably one of my other fears is I'm going to run out of time, that I got more shit I want to try and do. That's probably the biggest fear, that I'm going to run out of time. I want to try more shit.
There's a lot of time, but, right, like that. There's a lot of time. Like, I don't think you should fear that because time there. I guess you don't know because you could get killed walking your doggy.
Yeah, but, you don't know, man. And I'm worried that it's just going to cut me short. And I don't even know the things I want to try. You know what I mean? Most of the shit I've got into in life, I just sort of was like, oh, shit, I'm going to try comedy now. You know, oh, my God, I'm in the nightclub business. Oops. It started out as a great place to sell drugs. Then I was in the comedy. Then I was in the nightclub business, right? And I don't know how I ended up half the fucking places I ended up. So I'm excited about what's the future. You know, where some weird shit I may end up. You know, I wound up on Rogan, right? I just have found myself in these awkward situations or new, cool, crazy shit that was not planned. You know what I mean? Rogan wasn't planned. It was believed. I hoped, right? I mean, so what the fuck? The next 20 years, what might I experience? What I might do? You know, don't cut me down. I'm gonna run out of time. You know what I mean?
That is pretty exciting. That is pretty exciting. Like knowing something cool is going to happen, but not knowing what it is. Like that's kind of cool. And based upon your track record, like something else really cool might happen after this. Like, but I feel like all the things you've done well in have to do with like communication, right? Communication, like you were communicating with your clients, and then
communication operations.
Communication operations. Like the nightclub, was that like, were you also doing stand-up there, or was that more of like a business venture? Okay.
No,
so
that was strictly money. That was, yeah, the DA, FBI let me out of jail, and I had to go straight legal. So I went. No, my lawyer got me out of jail. No, I went straight legal in that business, but I love that business. I like the ins and outs, the operations, the design, the setup, all of that stuff. It was fun.
You were in jail?
Yeah, for a little bit.
Like, how long? I was curious, because you know what? That's my biggest fear, is being in jail.
It should be.
Like, I will follow
You're way too pretty for jail, Sean. You're way too pretty for jail, man.
Like, is it really, like, oh my God, I just can't imagine waking up and, like, being stuck and, like, not being able to do whatever I want, being, like, stuck there. Like,
it's a nightmare, man. I was actually in isolation for most of it. So I was isolated for most of it.
That's bad.
That's terrible.
Good.
That's terrible.
I mean, right. Number one on the depression checklist, like you said.
Yeah, when you're in isolation and you're 23 down, 1 off. That sucks. You get 1 hour rec and then back in.
Oh my God, dude.
Yeah, it was
Like,
terrible, but it pushes you to question yourself, develop multiple personalities, right? It pushes you to do that. But I think some of those tragedies is, I've experienced way more than that too. But I think that's what happened to you. It happens to me. It pushes us to not be afraid, right? To get on stage and grab the mic, to pick up a mic like you did and start a podcast. I know you mentioned running your other business in the ground, but you didn't. You came right back. You stuck with it, and you burned the boats, right? That was your.
Yeah.
I like that idea, right? You burned the boats. You stayed with it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, sticking with the thing's important. But when my business was really failing, I kind of had that attitude that like, okay, it was really bad. I was like, this is terrible. This is a disaster. I'm very aware of that. But in the moment, like while the ship was sinking, I was just like, this is going to be an awesome like story. This is going to be something to overcome. This is going to be like, I already had the optimistic mindset as I saw.
There's
like,
that silver lining shit you do, man.
Yeah, exactly. The silver lining shit. Like the silver lining shit is awesome. And I was like, I'll be talking about this on a podcast one day, or I will like get stronger from this and I will overcome it. And like, yeah, that's a special thing. I think is finding the silver lining, but also tragedies aren't bad. I mean, this is like weird advice. And I remember saying this at one point, but I hadn't said this in a while, but like, if you never had a tragedy in your life, like, I don't know, maybe try to like manufacture one. Like that sounds crazy.
No, that's what a lot of the society's doing. That younger society, a lot of them have had it pretty easy. So dude, I don't want to interrupt you. Go ahead. I'll follow you.
No, that's it. Like manufacturing tragedy, I think is an interesting concept.
No, I think that's what's happening today, man. I think a majority of a younger generation did not have a lot of pushback, right? I mean, the way you raise kids 20 years ago, the way you do it now, or 30, 40 years ago is different, right? I mean, there were spankings, you were hardcore. It was, you don't look at me that way, right? It was kind of different. Now it's this coddling environment, right? And thanks to psychology, they've turned it to that, right? And so I think we're programmed, our brain, our body, we're programmed to have something to push back against. And I've said something similar about anxiety and depression is if there's no tragedy in your life, nothing you're working through, the brain will manufacture it. It will come up with anxiety. It will come up with depression because we grow from it. Without an opposite pull, we have nothing to grow and push through. And I think you're 100% right, dude. And now you got cancel culture, right? We got to be mad at something. I've been given everything in my life. I can have whatever I want. We got to manufacture some shit to be mad at. And I think anxiety, depression comes from that shit too, to where
we're wired to have a purpose and to keep growing and building. So if we're not doing that, the brain starts to naturally do that. And that's why I like business, because that's a great thing that you can always keep working on and building on, or a career or something like that. But like if you don't have a good place to put it, that's where anxiety will hit.
It's going to creep on you. It's going to force you to have to work at something.
And like even like the protest stuff that's going on now, like, I mean, I don't know, like the race stuff is interesting. Like I think that like everyone in this country has a like pretty fair shot. I mean, there's different ways to look at it. I think there's no benefit to looking at things like, oh, it's negative. But I understand the fact that this is my time to fight back against like the bad society. I think that's part of the brain. The people who've had a pretty normal life, and then they have this like excuse or reason or whatever to go fight against the society, the negative world, like that. I think is the part of the brain that like protests have been around forever. And I think that might be the young people looking to have that purpose or have that thing to fight for. And I think that's like probably where it comes from. And it's probably healthier than having anxiety. I mean, sure. And like, I mean,
they're creating it. I have to say it. It's probably going to get emails for it, but all the privileged people in the streets holding signs protesting about, whether it's race or police violence or anything like that. I hear you, but I know in the early 90s when people were shooting each other out in the hood left and right and kids were getting nicked, I ain't see any of you. You weren't in the hood protesting then. You weren't out yelling then, but you got your sign, you got your selfie picture, you posted your black square, so I guess you're doing something. But I know South Central is still a dangerous place. I know Chicago is. I know some terrible places where people are dying every day. But that's all right. That's right. You go change. Now don't get me wrong. My Guy Fawkes mask is right over there. You know what I mean? I'm down. I will put that thing on and lead a revolution if it comes down to it. I'm in.
Right. like protesting sounds awesome. Like I would love to have a reason. And you mentioned before, like we don't have a war to go to. We don't have a princess to save. I think, correct me if I'm wrong on this with like mental health, like one of the healthiest times in American history, at least, was like World War II, because everybody had a purpose. Like the young men went to fight. The women and children were saving their cans, collecting them, and then putting them out front so they could be picked up to go put into the factories to build ammunition. Like factories that used to build cars turned into tanks, and factories like the Hershey factory that used to build candy bars made like nutrition bars. Like everybody had a purpose, and everybody had something to fight against as a country. And I've heard this before, that the mental health was very good then, because nobody woke up and was like, what's my purpose? Everybody had a purpose. And like
I would probably say World War One. We really didn't want to get into World War Two. We were holding out to the very last minute.
I don't think we didn't want to get into either of them.
Yeah, we held out to the last minute. Well,
because it was like Europe's wars, and we were like, I don't want to do it.
Yeah, we benefited well from holding out. I mean, we made a hell of a deal for jumping in late, right? I mean, there was a lot of business behind it, but I think probably in World War One, as we were going to war, we thought we were fighting a just war. When we finally got into it, right? By World War Two, so many had died. Americans that died, that a lot of people were not even wanting to get back into it. They were like, no, we're not even going to do this again.
That's why my favorite conspiracy theory that no one talks about, and I'm not a big conspiracy theory guy at all, but FDR, who was the president during World War II, he knew that Pearl Harbor was going to get attacked and let it happen, because he wanted the public to get on board for the war. And that was the cry, Pearl Harbor.
I've heard that.
Pearl Harbor was the... You said you never heard that?
No, I've heard that.
Oh, you've heard that?
Oh,
yeah, like he knew kind of. And like I think some of the big battleships or aircraft carriers like were out for maintenance. I've heard that, but like he was smart, and he knew that like we had to get into this stuff for many reasons, political world stuff, but like he knew that we didn't want to do it, and we didn't want to do it. We absolutely did not want to as a whole. But after Pearl Harbor, they hit us on our own shores. That was the rallying cry. And
that was it. That was well, it was same thing with September 11th, right? That happened, and we were all like, yeah, let's go get them. Let's go get them. I don't care. Let's any of those countries. We're going over there, and we're going to get somebody. We pull together like that, man. And I'm disappointed in us on how this happened, and we split even further. We didn't pull together like the America of old used to.
There was a period in March, like right when the stuff was hitting, right when the lockdown, that I felt a little bit of unity. Like I remember saying it, but then it didn't take long for it to get political. But there was a period of it, and that it's such a weird enemy, the virus. The coronavirus is such a weird enemy. It's like, I don't know.
It's that crazy ex-girlfriend that shows up beating on your window late night that you thought was really done with you, man, and she just shows up randomly one night.
Yeah. But
it's funny to me.
We do.
Man.
If we had an outside enemy, I think that would have united the country. Like we haven't had that in a long time, really. I mean, 9/11 was probably the last time, and I was a little younger then. Like I was in 7th grade. I just remember how crazy it was, but I don't remember having any like political viewpoints because I didn't fucking know anything.
Yeah.
But apparently, like that was the last time our country was like very, very unified. Like
yeah, it was intense, man. Like we were all supporting each other. Everybody kind of pulled together and rallied around that, man. Well, that goes back to the point you were saying that through tragedy, through destruction, we can find and grow beautiful things. Things can come out of that.
Right. And I think the people that are protesting, that's what they're looking for. Like, but there's not as much like logic to their points, and like they're not really doing anything helpful. They're not really looking for the solution, but they're looking for like the feel of like that feeling, which I think they need a better outlet. But yeah, the thing was that the brain needs something to push forward for, or else it's going to start like messing up. And that relates. I know you said you're kind of over it a little bit, but psychology, like all the people that you treated and talked to, like, is that one of the things that you tried to help them find, was a purpose or something to do or something to like grasp onto that they can then build forward on in their head? Or how do you like go about
the hardest thing with addiction was trying to get the patient I was working with to understand that the drugs were not the problem.
Okay, addiction specifically. Okay.
Yeah, the drugs and drinking, those are symptoms, right? Depression and anxiety are symptoms. They're not what's wrong with you. But we say shit like, I'm depressed, I'm an addict, right? I'm anxious. So we don't say I am headache, right? We don't say that. We have a headache, right? We're not those things. but we say it. I'm depressed, I'm anxious, and getting people to understand this is just symptoms. These are symptoms of something. Anxiety and depression can be helpful. If you're feeling anxiety, something in your body's telling you to get the fuck out of there. Wherever it is you're at, it's telling you to change some shit.
And that can be a physical location, but that could also be like a state of life, right? Like
damn right.
Right. Like something's not going right now, right?
Yeah, if you're feeling that anxiety, something in you is going, you're in the wrong place, maybe in the wrong relationship, maybe at the wrong job. Right? Maybe your body's telling you, dude, I need to work out more. I got to get going here. I'm something ain't fucking right. Right? So I tell people embrace the anxiety and depression and listen to them. Listen to what they're telling you and make changes until you don't hear them anymore. But getting people to understand that those are symptomatic. And if you treat the symptoms, guess what? You still got the problem.
Right. Like the physical addiction, maybe you can treat that, but then you just are like still in the same situation. And then you have the depression, which might lead to that. Oh, man. Yeah, it is. It's so cool. It is so fucking cool how the brain like works like that. Like the way that humans evolved is so fascinating. The brain is so interesting. The fact that it knows. How does it know? If we don't know, how does it know that like something's wrong? Like I guess it is us, but like it's such a cool feature that's built into our brain. Like it's
and that's all we get to study the brain is the brain itself. So we use our brain to study the brain.
Yeah, it's like.
It's fucking, it's a mind fuck,
it's
man.
It's weird. It is a mind fuck. It is a mind fuck. Like studying the brain with a brain.
That's all we got, though, man. That's all we got to focus on. We use that brain to study something. Psychology I liked because there were no wrong answers, right? If you can walk through it, there's no definites. It's subjective and theoretical. Most of things in psychology are theoretical and based on research, right? Nothing is this factual fucking thing. I mean, even the diagnosis are fucking horseshit. I mean, they give you a diagnosis, and guess what? Those symptoms are self-report. The person is telling you they feel those things, and then you got to classify them. So it is one of the most unscientific fucking practices on the planet. We're shaping there, though. We're getting there. I'll share something with you here towards the end, man. I smoked some pretty good weed when I had this thought, right? And I started writing this shit down. I don't know if it has any water, but in short, because I got deep into theorists, to authors, like people like the cognitive psychologists, the behavioralists, right? I know the history and how they kind of, it's real drama, really, if you look at it. It's very Real Housewives of fucking L.A. with those guys. But if you look at the era, like we were talking about World War I, World War II, right? The treatment at that time was a very behavioral, mechanistic approach. You had some psychoanalysis going on, but it was very Pavlov, it was very Skinner, it was very behavioral. You do this, you get this, right? You do this, you get this. And as a society, we were very mechanistic. We were very behavioralist. Industrial age was happening at that time. Then we start to drift forward into like the 60s and 70s, and then you get what comes around is called positive psychology. Positive psychology comes out. It's funny. Carl Rogers with positive psychology comes out. And now we're kind of hipsters. Now it's about your feeling. The patient can do no wrong. Everything's amazing. The 80s and 90s hit, and then cognitive psychology blows up on the scene, and you get Albert Ellis and you get Bandura, you get these guys that are talking about, no, it's what you think, fuck what you feel, you hippies. I don't care what you it's what you think, and then what you think shapes what you do, right? And then society switched that way. 80s and 90s, technology starts making an impact in our life, and we're thinking more about thoughts and analog. And then now, since technology has taken over, psychology has now turned to brain imaging, scanning, blood tests, magic pills that we take, right? Everything is all science in that world right now because that's where we are as a society, is technology. And so I'm making a prediction that the next movement of treatment is going to be all the way back to the beginning where this started, which was naturopathy. Because if you go way back, they treated you with figs and plants and mud and shit. That's what they treated you with. Until this, why Freud is the gangster of them all, Sean. Yeah. Freud is a gangster because before he showed up, you had demons in you, right? You had demons in you. That's why you acted that way. And he said, nope, it's because you want to fuck your mom.
He's like the id and the ego and all that, right?
Right.
Freud?
And he put it back to the sexual shit. You want to bang your mom. That's why. You know what kind of fucking gumption it takes when everybody's religious and you go, no, you want to bang your mom. That's what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
You're right.
I mean, like, it was true, right? Like, yeah.
And he says that. So the beginning, all this started with naturopathy and natural healing. And then we turned and went through all of these phases of science and mental health and psychology treatment to come now into technology and now back to naturopathy.
You're just following the trends. That's smart.
society's going
interesting.
organic. We're eating healthy again. We're talking about growing our food at home again,
Right.
We're all talking about food for treatment, vitamins for treatment, sunlight for treatment, right? We're going back to the naturopathy, and we're having some technology come along with us, right, along the way. But and that, I think the cycle just fucking repeats itself.
Interesting. Yeah, we got to have like a mix of the technology and like the natural thing a little bit. Like, but that's cool. That's a great prediction. Like, that's smart. And it makes sense because like even if you look at it, we had like a Republican president, a Democratic, it like cycles. Like things cycle. Like, and that's the next wave of it. So that's insightful.
So
You said it first.
what's the next wave for you, baby? What's the next wave for you, Sean?
I mean, I am, like I said, sticking with growing my business right now. So I'm actually in the phase where I'm outgrowing my business and or my building, and I'm looking to get a new building.
All right. Well, tell
And
people what your business is, man. Why people listening?
yeah, I mean, my business is United Monograms. It's girls' clothing. I mean, for your listeners, I would say listen to my podcast, The Sean Lowery Show. So check me out, Sean Lowery 20, Facebook, Instagram, all that. Listen to my podcast. It's entrepreneur based, but I'll talk about all kinds of shit. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking to like just continue. I'm not trying to get too into my podcasting stuff where I forget about what's making me the money, because the business is the thing that gives me the freedom to do the podcast. And I'm looking to actually get a new building, like a big 22,000 square foot building, which would be huge.
Nice.
And within there, I'm looking to maybe have a little area where I can set up like a studio and maybe like have guests in and like always be like dragging along the podcast. And I that is my next, like, I need to grow. I need like advancement and like in a physical sense, like for my business, like this new building is kind of my next, it's going to be a big deal. Like my employees going to be, it's like the one I'm looking at's like 20 minutes away. Like can I bring my employees along? We got to move our machines. We got to keep the business operational. Like there's going to be a lot of logistics to it, but like it keeps me happy just to keep going to make it bigger. And I mean, as long as my sales are growing, as long as moving to a new building, getting more employees, and then I have this podcast thing too, which is like my other outlet. And like, as long as I see that keep growing too, like I'm happy. And I don't know maybe the exact next thing, especially not with the podcast, because I'm just seeing where that's going. And I'm kind of literally just not planning a lot for this. I'm trying to be loose, like you said, with the conversation, and like I'm just trying to be loose with it and not like make a structured plan like I would for my business. But that's what I'm doing, man. The Sean Lowery podcast, United Monograms, my girls' clothing business that's rocking, and just advancing, moving, growing, and making sure that, yeah, I love that anxiety conversation where like if I'm feeling anxious, I know what it is, and I can solve it by growing my business, not like doing something stupid like protesting for no reason or becoming depressed or complaining. So, yeah.
I like the fear, man. I think anxiety is fear letting you know opportunity is knocking.
I love that.
It's letting you know if you're afraid of something. I was scared to death, get on stage, right? You're scared to death, start a podcast, maybe, but you put the fear aside, but you follow the fear, man. I like that about you, bro. You follow the fear and you don't run from it, man. If you could be in any field other than the business you're in, what would you want to be making all your money at doing?
I would love to be a professional athlete or like a Hollywood actor. I'm not gonna lie. Like I do, like I actually have a weird, like I kind of like, I'm not obsessed with it. It doesn't relate to my happiness, but I think fame would be a fun thing. Like I want to like interact with society, like being famous. I just think it would add a fun little element to life. Like going out and people recognize you or not. Like I heard a lot of famous people say being famous is overrated. I know that it's like a bad thing to do, to go seek fame. Like it's like a empty like thing. But I think being like mega famous, I want to feel it.
Like you want like fun. DiCaprio status.
Yes, like yes, like if you gave me like a magic wand and said, "Could you be DiCaprio?" Like, yeah, I would want to do. Like, I would want to do that. Like, I think it would be interesting.
I'm gonna take his life. I'm gonna do that.
Now, like, if I could live it for a little bit, I would have a better opinion on it, and I would like, but I would want that. Like, and I know that it doesn't just. I know that you can't. It's a negative. It's a bad thing to say. It's a
Not
bad
really.
thing to
Fuck
say.
Him.
I want
Fuck
to be
him.
famous.
Fuck him.
But like, I do. I want to be like. I do want to be famous, and like, I'm not banking on it. I'm not like unhappy and withering away until I get some type of recognition from others. It's 0% like that. I'm very happy from within, but I think being famous would be fun. And
Being
yeah,
experienced,
so
right? Check that
it'd
shit
be,
off.
yeah, like it'd be an awesome experience. So if I could be in another field and being a professional athlete, one of the things I love about that is that you have a game. Like that's one of my things I don't like about business is like I said I like the gamifying things, and business is very much games, like the revenue and like, but it's like always going on, and like, did I win? It's never like over, like
That's
it's like
true. Yeah, yeah.
like I love the definitiveness of a game within a season, within a career of the athlete. It's like you go out and we have to come together, and you win or lose, and you can play just as good as you played if you win or lose, but like that last second shot rolls out, and now you're crushed as opposed to being happy, and like the end game of like a game, I think brings a lot of like hype to like I would love to just go out there and like have that energy run through my veins up to a point where the crowd's cheering. Like that's the thing I love about being a professional athlete is like the glory of the win. Like I think that would be fun, and then they're always looking forward to it. So
What's your
between
sport?
the fame between the fame and the game, an athlete would be my answer, like a LeBron James. I played basketball like in high school, and I played lacrosse in high school too. Like basketball is my favorite
I
sport, though.
wish I'd got into lacrosse, man. I wish I got into
Lacrosse.
that. Like I played football all the way. I played a little amateur pro. What am I? I can't even talk right now. Played a little arena football and semi-pro.
Really?
That's the word I was looking for.
Really?
Not
What
arena ball,
position what
semi-pro.
position you play?
I was linebacker all through high school and college, and then I switched to strong safety and
Okay.
played for the
You like to
Orlando
hit people?
Rage. What's that?
You like to hit people?
Yes, yes. I
Hell yeah.
enjoyed. I had a lot of anger as a child. I needed to get some shit out. Injury ended that shit. But so basketball. But I watched lacrosse, man. All my white people friends would go play lacrosse,
Yeah.
and some of them even on the football team, right? And crossed over.
Yeah.
I was a baseball, football, track guy, and man, I watch it now. I'm like, damn, that would have been fun, man.
Yeah, lacrosse is so fun. It just started when I was in high school, and like we got some of the basketball players, like not that many, but some like me, and then we got some of the football players. Like it brought in a wide range of like athletes because everyone who was like kind of athletic but didn't have like a baseball, basketball, football, they're like, I'm doing lacrosse, man. This is I can hit people. Like we got actually where there's so many hockey players that play lacrosse, they kind of cross a lot. It's a great sport, but it hasn't taken off in like the ESPN world or
It
like
was the
it has
very first sport in these United States.
half Native American, right?
That's it, baby. That's it. Yeah, yeah. It was a native game, man. It was a Native American game that got ripped off.
Dude, I mean, I know I'd love to. What can I talk about? Can I ask you a question about Native Americans for a second?
I'll do the best I can.
Like, I am fascinated in the history of Native Americans, and there's not a lot of it because there wasn't a lot recorded, right? So a lot of it becomes with like the American or European coming in. Like, do you feel that like the land was like taken away from the Native Americans? Like,
Yeah,
is that?
yeah, 100%. I mean,
I
yeah,
mean, it was like factually.
yeah.
Uh, the one thing I think a lot of people not know with like the Trail of Tears and stuff like that is like there was like court cases and stuff. Like there was like it wasn't just like raw like charging in and chopping their heads off. Like there
No,
was some treaties and
they
like there
moved
was
them.
some
They
like
kept moving them, and then they had to walk to
right,
the
right.
reservation and
But
get there.
and like I'm not trying to defend my European ancestors, but like there's a quote from Thomas Jefferson that says like we will absolutely like bond together with this society and become one. Like we will like race with like them and we'll all just become one race. We truly did try to like, and I say we, it's like I wasn't there. I don't know. I mean the
Right.
Europeans, like from what I've like researched, like the Europeans did try to like have them be a part of it, and I think like the Native Americans were more like, nah, fuck this, like. And then the one thing that was like I think was like the deal breaker, like obviously this didn't happen all at once, it was over time, but like they had a culture of Native Americans of like kind of like a taking culture, like a raiding, like a lot of the economy was based on raiding, like
Depending on the tribe and the region.
depending on the tribe, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
tribe and the
But
region for sure.
like I think that's where we like drew the line a little bit. And of course this isn't like there's a lot of different regions over a long period of time in different tribes, but I think like there was like they like would like come take all their shit, and then like I think that's where a lot of like white people might have like drawn the line and been like, all right, well, fuck this, like
Well,
they just like
but they were
ransacked
here.
my house.
They were here taking their well, not their shit, but everyone's shit, the land, and put up fences. There was not even a word for fence in the language. right? So to say mine, right? To put up a fence and say the earth is mine, this area is mine, didn't understand. But you speak to a big problem is a lot of the natives were busy fighting each other. Rarely did the natives raise a large army and fight. It was small little fights.
They didn't have an organized government of like states. Like that.
No, they had the Six Nations. The Six Nations were organized, and under those Six Nations were multiple tribes under the Six Nations. So the Six Nations would come together and make decisions, right? The Sioux, the Lakota, the Navajo, right? But under those tribes are other small tribes, like the Apache had Cherokee Apache, right? So the Six
Apache
Nations
were the wild ones, right?
Yeah, I would say the Cherokee Apache. Geronimo was actually Cherokee Apache. And so there were other factions under, so you'd have Six Nations, but there'd be 50 tribes under one of those nations, right? Of the Sioux Nations called something else. So the Six Nations would come together, but a lot didn't agree. Some wanted to merge, some wanted to make treaties, some wanted to shake hands, and some wanted to war.
Yeah.
And we fought amongst each other, right? And I say that, I'm only half of me. Half of me fought amongst each other. You know, so it's not like they ever pulled together and pulled some giant native army and went to war. Eventually, technology takes over anyway. You know, you got bows and arrows versus guns and cannons, right? It's not going to work, you know. But you know, they lived that way for a long time. But this circles back to you and I talking about what they did have was honor of a game. I took your horse, right? I won you in the race.
The flag.
Right. I beat you in the race.
Now we're talking.
Our war party fucked up your war party, so we win, right? You know, there was a lot of that happening. I won't tell the story now, but if later, if anybody wants to look over yourself, you look up the lost colony of Jamestown, and look up that research, and that's my tribe, the Croatan, that they're talking about. Okay. And what happened?
You guys are from your tribe's from like the Northeast,
Virginia.
Virginia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Virginia. Yeah. I'm considered Lumbee, but I'm not Lumbee. So we're actually on the Croatan, the Croatan family scrolls, right? So that's over in Burnt Swamp. That's up near you somewhere. It's around near you. Aren't you in South Carolina?
I'm in Charleston, South Carolina. Yeah.
Yeah. Burnt Swamp's up that way, right? So Burnt Swamp, it was pretty cool. The McLowry brothers were the last people to take a stand against the United States government. And they did it with the Croatan tribe at Burnt Swamp. And Burnt Swamp today is still the Croatan land. The McLowry brothers that were known as being some crazy people, they set booby traps and all these stuff. They came out to get them. They couldn't get to them and fought them. But that doesn't have to do with Lost Colony of Jamestown. But the Jamestown, they established the colony. Somebody left. They come back. There's a word, if you will, written on the tree, basically, that said Croatan. But really it said don't come back. And they had assimilated some of the people into the tribe. The Croatan tribe were runaway slaves, intermarriage tribes that have pulled together. They sort of accepted everybody because certain tribes couldn't intermarry. So we took on everybody that came back. But when they came back to Jamestown and nothing was there, literally nothing. Everything they had built and left there had been put back. Everything was gone. Yeah. And the lost colony was afoot, right? But It's cool, man. Cool history, dude.
That's so interesting. I love that shit. I love that so much. But yeah,
dude, it's been fun, brother. I love chatting with you, man.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely, yeah. Like I love that. Yeah, I love that when you popped on Drink and Grow Rich and got the same last name, Lowery. I looked you up. You're on Joe Rogan, and dude, this has been such a fun conversation. And the cognitive rampage. I mean, the brain is so fascinating.
Well, you live yours, brother, right? When I talk about when people come on the show and I say, welcome to Cognitive Rampage Podcast, hope you're taking care of you, hope you're living your cognitive rampage. You were living that, man. You were pushing the boundaries, questioning yourself, living with a state of enthusiasm, an edge of humility, right? Pushing yourself, questioning others, yourself. You're doing that, man, and you're pushing that, and you live yours, man. You live it.
We try.
Last parting advice, man. Last thing to do. If you had to leave one piece of advice on Earth when you bounced and you left, maybe it's to your son that you're going to have, since I know the first baby you have is going to be a boy.
That's right.
Yeah, I did catch what you said. It was funny. You go, because you know what, my first son is going to be a boy. You said, I was like, well, of course. Yeah, you caught it. I was like,
I already believe it. Yeah.
I was like, yeah, of course your first son's gonna be.
My first kid. I mean.
Yeah.
I'm willing that into existence.
I know you will, man. I know you will. So let's say you want to leave, your young man an advice, because I know you're gonna have a boy, right? What is that piece of advice? And you don't have a book to leave, right? You just got a couple words or a couple sentences, I should say, right, to leave the world or leave him behind.
It's good. I'm going to say just like love yourself more than anyone else, and it's okay to be a little bit selfish, because you have to live with yourself and you have to love yourself, and you can't help other people until you love yourself first. So people might tell you being selfish is a bad thing, and it is at a certain extent, but be selfish so that you can build yourself up to then be able to help others. Because if you're nothing, you won't be able to help other people. So be a little bit selfish to build yourself up.
I love it, baby. Sean Lowery, everybody, man. That's when we give you all a hand heading out there. I love that advice, brother. Dude, thanks for coming on the show, man. Short notice doing this with me, man, and hanging.
Oh, love it. Thank you, dude.
All right, man. Love you, dude. Good luck to everything you're doing, man.
I love you too. Peace out.